This video you're about to watch is a call that I did for Tai Lopez and his community about how to basically implement AI into business, whether that's using voice agents, conversational agents, like loads of different things. I go into all of the details about how to build them. We build a live automation on the call. So make sure you watch through and I hope you enjoy it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's VIP Thursday call. I'll be your host today. Antonio's had to take care of a few things. My name is James. I help behind the scenes here with Tai Lopez. And today we have a special guest for you. His name is Dan Spence. He's going to be covering a couple of topics when it comes to AI automation, perfecting a few things there when it comes to putting some automations in place, growing the business, and having things run on autopilot so you don't have to take care of them day after day. We still have some more people join us. Anyone want to share any quick wins? Anything big happening?
Today's guest speaker is Dan Spence. We've had him teach on our live calls before, not just a while back. It was a couple of weeks back, but Daniel runs an AI automation agency in the UK, and he is going to be teaching some AI automation today. So it's going to be really exciting. Dan, thank you so much for joining us once again. I'm just going to go ahead and, James, if you can just go ahead and make Daniel co-host. Daniel Spence. Greetings, Christ has risen. Hello, Sean. Welcome. Awesome. All right, Daniel, you're a co-host. You can go ahead and
Awesome. Perfect. Well, thank you for having me again, guys. So today we're going to cover a couple of bits. I want to do voice agents. I think that's one of the biggest things at the moment, whether that's outbound, inbound, dealing with kind of any calls that you're doing at the moment. It's becoming more and more powerful by the day. Once we've rattled through that, I'm going to do SMS and kind of engaging people who apply through lead magnets or whatever it is on there, and how those automations are built out and how really you can make the most of it, integrate it with CRMs and all of that good stuff so that you're kind of having leads nurtured all the way through the process. And then if we've got time after that, I will run through live with you guys on how to build an automation to post on your LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever it is, whichever platform you want to do. And we'll build that live here so that you can kind of build it with us, or even just watch back this at some point so that you've got a good understanding of how all of this works. So we will kick off with Vappy. So Vappy is our go-to for the AI voice agent, so able to answer the phone and kind of manage it on that side. I've been really impressed with their kind of toolkit and everything else that you can build within here. There's loads of other ones, but Vappy seems to kind of be the top tier one at the moment. So this is an assistant we've already got built. If I share this, you should be able to hear it.
Say hello.
Hello. Awesome. Okay, so this is, well, we're going to build another assistant here. So I've already got one built. We'll build another test one this evening. So you can choose what it is that you actually want the AI to do. So by kind of setting these pre-selects already, it kind of puts it in the right tone for what it is that you want to do. Whereas appointment setting, answering the phone, customer service, all of these options are on there. We're just going to go for customer service this evening. So we have just created that agent there. There are different levels on here. So there's different costs. So these are made up of different elements that Vappy uses. So Vappy's always got their cost on it. However, you can choose which model that you want to use, whether it's ChatGPT, DeepSeek, whichever provider you want to use, and that obviously has a cost associated with it as well. And then there's another Vappy cost and the audio part, so turning that text into a voice that's able to kind of speak. So there's also the kind of the delay. So 900 milliseconds isn't too bad. But as you play around with some of these, you will watch them kind of move in different ways, so that you can kind of manage your costs and replies length of reply. So you want to get a nice sweet spot where it's not costing you too much, and also it's got fast reply rates. So you can just go on and choose whichever you'd like on here. There's obviously Appy's internal one, OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, and then any custom LLMs, DeepSeek, and so on. So let me just show you how this changes the speed and response on here. So if we pick an Anthropic one, the prices have changed and the latency has got even higher. And then once you move within these, it also changes the price and so on. So depending on what kind of model you want, whether it's going to be education based, you can plug in your own agents and assistants within this, so it can be fully trained on your business. So it has all of the information that you need to know, all natively within here. There's different versions of this. As you can see, it gives you a bit of a highlight of what the costs are going to be. The minis are always faster and cheaper. That's kind of the main sales point on here. Nano is even quicker and marginally cheaper, but you can't see that. All the way through to the more expensive and slower ones. So O1 is a smarter model, but not as quick. So it really depends what it is that you're after. So we're going to go with something fairly short to make sure that the reply rate and kind of responses are very quick. That's also brought down our costs massively as well. At the end of the day, it's not expensive anyway. If you look at the cost point, Rappy is nearly 50% of it anyway. So they're kind of the elements that you can play around with in here. So if you want any files that you want it training on, you can add those into here as well. You can either train it natively inside OpenAI, or you can just build it within there. You can also then play around with the temperature. The temperature is basically how flexible you would like it to be with the answer. This does affect the speed of which it replies, and also kind of what information and how accurate it is as well. So just be aware of that. If you are happy for it to be a bit more flexible and you just want it to say something, then you can go very high. If you want it very precise, like if it's answering customer service elements, where it's answering the phone about what stock you've got available, what your opening hours are, you don't really want it to turn around and say, and make up an opening hours. So you need to just be aware of that when you're going through. Max tokens, this is how much that it will allow the assistants to spend. So you can kind of like put a cap on how much you want it to spend and use. The benefit of this is you can keep costs down. The downside of this is its responses are going to be shorter. So you can kind of use this in a way to make sure that it's not rambling on and on and on and on and on. So that's something to have a look at on there. Now we go on to actually what the first message is. So this is where you can actually talk about whatever that's going to be, whether that's a customer service inquiry, whether it's booking people in. It might be like this is normally a very traditional one. Hi there, it's Alex from Tech Solutions Customer Service. How can I help you today? Just make it as feel as natural as possible when you're answering the phone, just because then you'll end up actually building this out in a way that the responses feel very organic and natural, and talk through everything on there. So I'm going to leave that as is for now, but if you want to change it to like, would you like to book an appointment with our team? Is it something that's more exciting? We built one of these out for a alloy wheel refurb company. So they paint wheels basically, and they were having a problem where they were having to phone their customers to get them to come pick the wheels. So we built an AI that did that. So the first message on there was, hi, it's Matt, just letting you know that your wheels are ready to pick up. Are you able to pick them up today or tomorrow? And then it kind of just talked them through. And we linked it up with their calendar and everything else, which I'll run you through in a minute. All off the back of it. So you can be really flexible with this. Obviously, it just depends on what your end goal is as part of that process. So this is where you can kind of pick what it is that you want to cover in here. So it's given you a load of examples already, because we've already said that we want it to be a customer service based agent, what its identity and purpose are. So we'll just kind of have a quick scan through this and see if there's anything else that we want to add, just for the purposes of this demo. So obviously for you, it will be talking about the company, anything that you want it to say and do, anything that kind of makes your company special and why you're doing the things that you're doing, and kind of anything that you need it to be trained on. Same as you would train an employee. just be aware that it's something that like will come up. One of the other things that is worth taking note of here is the personality. So if you want to be very formal, whether it's more friendly and casual, obviously it depends on your business, who you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. I think the friendly side comes across a bit more natural than the formal ones. Don't get me wrong, AI is very good at doing formal, but it takes it to a real extreme. So you can find that middle gap where it's not too formal, it's not too casual, and it feels a bit more like a human. On that note, one of the things that I would highly suggest when you're building these out is to own it. Own the fact that you're using AI, and I would be tempted to put on the first message, "Hi, this is Alex from tech to customers to AI customer service." Just throw in there that it is an AI, because if you try and catch people out, they feel cheated. Whereas if you're very upfront and own it, then people are quite happy to kind of take part of that, and just say that, look, you're just talking to me now because I just want to check X, Y, and Z before we put you through to whoever it is it's going to be putting through. You can link up to actual real telephone. So instead of the press 1 to speak to accounts, press 2 to speak to whatever, you can have AI answer the phone and say, "Hi, which department can I put you through?" Try and answer any questions that it can, and then put you through to the relevant department. All of that we can show you how to do in the workflow section in a second. But anyway, back to this. So another point that's quite key in here is adding things like and let me think about it, to kind of like to talk through that. There are some times where it can get a bit extreme with this, and it's like every other sentence has a in it, and it feels quite unnatural. But it's definitely worth having. If you want to own it and be very upfront that it's an AI, like we do as an AI-based company, like people have no problem speaking to an AI if they phone us up wanting AI and automations building. In fact, I think they'd be shocked if they got a human at this point. So you can kind of remove this, but just be aware that humans are used to speaking to humans. So until we get over that hurdle, it's going to be something people will and ah. So get that in there as well. So speaking with confidence, we remain humble when you don't know something. There is elements within here that you can basically set it up that if it doesn't know the answer and there's a delay and it's going away and researching, I'll show you this in the workflow as well, it's able to say like, "Oh, let me just check that," as if it was a human pulling up something on their laptop to just quickly check what it is that they've said, what it is that's going on. Off the back of that, so you can put like these human pauses and stuff in as part of it as well. Demonstrate genuine concern for customer issues. Once again, it's the empathy thing. It's making it feel a bit more human. But yeah, kind of go through that. Any speak characteristics that you'd like it to use. Conversation flow. So we will go through the flow in a minute. You can basically web out how you'd like the conversation to go, almost like an if what. So it's like, ask this question, if they say this, do that. And you can kind of schedule that all the way through as well, so that you can kind of almost navigate the conversation preemptively. There is a bit of flexibility you need within this, because sometimes people won't follow the natural flow of conversation, and you still need to be able to deal with that. But it's all just done in the prompting. These tools are very, very simple to kind of build together. It's just about how you prompt it and make sure it works properly. So where have we got to? The introduction. So once again, it's using the same introduction as the first message there. If the customer sounds frustrated or mentions an issue immediately, acknowledge their feelings of frustration. Another great little prompt to just kind of, this is your opportunity to train your customer service team once and for all, and then never forget it, and do all of those things that you want your customer service team to be doing. Obviously, if you're wanting them to do book meetings and so on, you just prompt it accordingly. So use open-ended questions. Confirm your understanding. So that's another big one, even in psychology, of just acknowledging that it is that you know what it is that they're going through, what the problems are, and so on as part of that. So if there's any kind of troubleshooting as well, it's mentioned and told what to do within there. resolve the idea. The main thing is to kind of resolve the idea. And then another big thing to mention on here is Vappy. I'm fairly sure last time I spoke to them, they were sorting this out. However, initially the AI didn't know when to end the conversation. So sometimes it would just sit in silence and the other person would just basically not be there, but they wouldn't have hung up, and it would just carry on until the other person hung up. They were looking at sorting this last time I spoke to them, so I imagine it's all sorted now. But it's just something to be aware of, hence the closing of the conversation, so that they get the hint that the call's over and to kind of move on. Obviously, naturally, they come to an end, but it's worth just making a note of that when you're building this out. Make sure there's a nice clean cut finish line, so that you're not kind of sat with an AI spending credits sat there doing nothing, but just something to be a little bit aware of. Response guidelines, obviously keeping it under 30 words where possible. AI is not particularly good with word count and only doing 30 words, so keeping it extra short like that is key, and that's also where you can play around with the max tokens. So by limiting the max tokens, you can also limit kind of how much of a conversation is said within there as well. Scenario handling, password reset, walk them through the process. Obviously, this is stuff that you train it on with a file in here. You just upload a file on all of the frequently asked questions, all of the kind of like any problems that you have with that, any customer service emails back and forth that you've had, build that into one big database that it has access to, and it will basically learn that knowledge base and then be able to come and collect that information at any stage and add that in. Whether it's billing concerns, product malfunctions, whatever it is, obviously it will depend on your business. This will only be good if you train them on good data. If you train it on a load of rubbish, it will be rubbish. So just be aware of that. I know it will take time to set up when you're building these things out, but trust me, it's worth putting in the legwork now instead of actually having to deal with more frustrated customers because your AI is not actually trained on how to solve their problems. So yeah, another couple of things on there, taking ownership of and saying that they're going to solve it. Off the back of this, there can be action points collected so that can be sent to make.com or Zappy or any other tools like that. So if you want an email summary of these sent over, then you can get all of that built out so that you are constantly in the loop of this. All of the calls get recorded anyway, so there's never really any issues about making sure that everyone is included and covered within there. If there's any technical expertise is required, seems like you require specialist assistance. So that's when you'll connect it to another member of the team, whether that's, oh, can I take your email and we'll get the email support team to send something over, or transferring people over. This is all part of how you lay out the workflow. Features and information requests, once again, very, very heavy based on what information you give it. It's only ever going to be as good as the information you provide it with. So by all means, go over the top, have AI help structure it. So just throw all of the bits into ChatGPT and say like, look, I need to build this out to train an AI on. Can you help me structure this data in the best way? And it will put together a lovely document that's built in the best way for AI to go through that data. It'll make sure that you haven't got any duplicates or anything like that in it, so that it's all structured in the best possible way. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. AI is really good at calibrating that data and laying it out in the right way so that we can use it. However, it is worth kind of making sure you structure it the best that you can to start with, so there's no confusion as you go through that. So also making sure that it provides accurate, concise information. Once again, you can control this with the temperature slide here, but just be aware, if it's too cold, then it'll be really trying to be really specific, and that can slow things down and make it a bit more complicated. It does also cause more errors, so you want it 0.5 is a good mark. We normally bring ours down to 0.3, but you can be a bit flexible with it when you build these out. So product information, once again, it'll be whatever you're trained on. Common solutions, this is something, once again, make sure it's trained on it, otherwise it won't be able to answer those questions. But also prompt it to make sure that it's aware that it's going to need to cover those points, because it will only ever be as good as the information you give it. Give it some limitations. So it's basically firing this information off to ChatGPT or whichever model you have chose here. So at the end of the day, it doesn't actually know that it can't process refunds. It's basically having a conversation, and it's the same as you would use normal ChatGPT. If you've ever used ChatGPT on your phone to have a proper conversation with, it's really good. But it will also it will be quite happy to say, yeah, sure, I'll process a refund for you. And obviously you can set up triggers off the back of it so that if it says process a refund, it notifies you and doesn't actually. Technically, you build it so it could process a refund, but I probably wouldn't advise that just in case it gets it wrong. But basically, what you should do in those situations, so you can't process a refund. However, you can escalate it to the billing department, and just how it manages that is probably the best way to kind of lay that out. Okay, so when explaining technical concepts, use analogies to kind of help lay it all out. So step-by-step instructions, basically just be very simple and break down some of the more complicated elements. And then call management. So if you're struggling to hear and get a clear understanding of what it is that the person's saying, it needs to kind of make the most of that. These are kind of like some bits that you're going to want in there every time regardless. But it's just worth knowing, and then you can add the bits on. You can also generate new ones on here, so go through, add some bits in. If you want to enrich it with AI, then just make the most of that. The next tool is kind of to configure the transcription. So do you want it transcripting off the back of it? Do you not? You can turn this off if you didn't want a transcription, but the transcription is really helpful when you get to the automation part, because you can take it out to tools like mate.com. So it's got a log of these transcriptions, which then can be summarized and emailed over, or just logged in your CRMs to say that Sarah's phoned, this is what she wanted. AI dealt with it, AI didn't deal with it, what's the next steps, and so on off the back of that. Voice configuration. So within here, there is loads and loads of different options on there. Once again, same as choosing your model which you want to use for speaking, for the actual text, you can then choose different voice ones on here. So 11 Labs, you can actually clone your own voice. So if you played around with 11 Labs, you'll know that you'll be able to actually just clone your own voice as you speak normally, and then upload that into 11 Labs. It will clone it, and then you can use that on here. However, just be aware that these ones take different speeds to reply, and you can just kind of have a play around and see which ones you prefer off the back of it. Some of them sound way more human than others. Obviously, you probably want one that sounds a bit more human. I found ones that have got a gentle accent from somewhere, makes it feel a bit more human, just because it's not an accent that you're used to. So you're not used to kind of how they say certain words and how they do certain things. So that's something to take into consideration when you go through here as well. Extra configuration. To be fair, it's very rare that I do anything with this. You can change the background noise so it sounds like they're in an office, or add a custom background if you want. I don't think this is hugely necessary. It does help it make it feel a bit more believable, but at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world either way. You can plug in voice bots off the back of this to connect with Mate.com, Go High Level, both of which we'll talk about in a bit more detail later on. You've also got custom functions, predefined functions. So if you want the phone number forwarding to a certain place, and you can add that in. You can set whether or not the assistant wants to dial digits on a keypad. There's loads and loads of extra bits on here that you'll never really need, but it's good to have. So if you want a summary of the call, this can be used however you want off the back of it. But this is basically the opportunity to get a summary. You can prompt it accordingly and say exactly what it is that you want off it. What are the action points? What is it that needs doing? If you're using this to pitch people to book a call with you and get in front of you, then you can use it as a summary of like objections that went wrong, or objection handling and stuff like that as part of the process. So really, really powerful way to do that. And then you can choose how long you want it to kind of spend it before it times out. So you can evaluate whether or not the call was successful. So whether that is a customer service successfully managed, whether that is a successfully booked the meeting. There's so much you can do off the back of that. And then how you use this information is in the workflow. So whether it gets emailed over to you or however that kind of gets laid out best for you. You can choose how the data is structured, how everything's laid out. You've got some privacy settings. You can choose whether or not it's recorded. I believe it's set to record automatically anyway. You can also do this on video, which is an interesting one. You can choose different speaking plans, so how long you want it to wait before speaking. So when somebody initially answers the phone, you can do punctuation seconds, so to choose how long the pauses are. Have a little play around with this. To be fair, the settings are normally pretty good as standard, but if you're finding that it's speaking a bit quick or doesn't take a pause in between sentences, then you can use this to kind of really help that. Voicemail detection. So this is mostly for outbound. So if you're having people phone in, obviously you won't need this turned on. But if you're phoning out to people, there's a good chance that you will get a voicemail every now and then. So have it noticed whether or not there is actually a voicemail on there. It's recommending Google's on there, which is interesting. So well worth a play with that as well if you're doing outbound. So whether that's you calling customers to make sure they're coming to their appointment, whether it's calling random people as a cold call. Obviously, it depends what you want to do. And also, I would check the laws on that. In the UK, it's illegal to use these kind of tools to make cold calls to people. It's just to stop you being able to do like 1 million cold calls in a day. I don't know what the rules are in the States. I'm fairly sure it's a bit more relaxed than here, but just be aware of that. And then call timeout settings. So I normally leave these as is. It's just for how long it waits before basically cutting the call off. Whether or not you like the keypad enabled, and then any messages on here. So that's pretty much everything on this page of how you need to set it up. You can play around with the different models that you want to use and so on. Once again, we've covered the transcriber on here. That all gets logged anyway. And then we've got voice, which we've chose. So I'll just show you a different one so you can see how it affects the time. So it's gone up 250 milliseconds, not the end of the world. I would like to keep these under 850. I mean, it will feel very natural like this anyway, but it's still worth keeping it really fast so that if there's any delays or lags, it doesn't really get picked up. Okay, so then your next section is the workflows. So I won't build too much out on here. However, this is where you can connect it up to APIs. You can use conditions, which you can basically have AI and the phone call decide whether or not it's met these conditions yet. And then off the back of that, it can do X, Y, and Z. It can access your calendar to see when you're available. It can book people in. You can say, get it to say, oh, I've got a slot on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Would you like it? And it will take all of the information in order to fill out an API request to fill out a form online, whether it's Calendly, whether using Go High Levels form, or even just like Google Calendar. It will be able to block out all of those bits on there for you so that all of that is covered and finished on there for you. It also then plugs in with any of the other tools like Make.com or Zapier or NA10 to link all of that together. You can technically code on here as well, but that's way past my pay grade. So there's loads of bits on here. Let's see if we can just add some extra bits on here so you can see what the options are. So you can have it say different things. So if you want it to get to the condition point, let's say they're asking for a refund, you can use that conditional logic to move it to say X, Y, and Z, and then change the prompt accordingly so that then it can say like, oh, well, I'll need to put that through to the billing team. Can I take some more information? What was your order number? What would and run through the process there. You can choose what gets extracted and so on off the back of that. I will just add another one. So we've got another option, so you can see a couple of other options. API requests. So this is basically how Make.com and Zapier and NA10 work, is just using these API calls. With the bonus with Make.com and Zapier and all of those other tools is it's natively built within there already. There's no real issue about kind of like it's really straightforward. It's not complicated to get put together. However, these ones are a little bit more difficult to build out. You can use ChatGPT to do a lot of this for you. If you were to put a screenshot of that and say, help, I want to integrate my Go High Level with it, or my pipe drive, or whichever CRM or tool you want to integrate within it, ChatGPT or any of the other AIs will be able to build you that bit of code and talk you through that process. So it's really not the end of the world. You can then send it off to assistants. So if you've got one already built, you might want different members of the team within here. So you might have a receptionist, which then handles you over to the customer service or the booking team or whatever it is off the back of that, and it kind of just builds all of that together for you. And what else have we got on here? So transfer calls, this is what we talked about again earlier. So you might want to play around with the conditions. So whether they've asked for X, Y, and Z, hand it over to whoever, and you just put the phone number in here. It might just be that you add that in if it's struggling to answer any of the questions and so on off the back of that. You can also add end call. So I was right, they have added in its ability to end the phone at any point if you wanted. So you could add a condition if it asks if it's AI, you can hang up or something along those lines. But yeah, that's kind of pretty much everything on here. It looks a bit more complicated than it really is. And annoyingly, everything is done through API requests, whereas on mate.com, if we just go create a new module on here, all of these on here are just different forms of API requests. So if you wanted pdf.co to convert a PDF, all this is an API request. And filling out these little bits on here is just the same as filling out an API request. However, you're just doing it through there and kind of linking it all up. So yes, that covers that. Obviously, you've got your phone numbers you can link up within there. Any additional tools? So this is like finding where their meeting time was. So being able to collect this information, you can then build this into workflows and so on. So if you're requesting it to find out what time the meeting is, then you can collect that information. You can use this to kind of build it out. You can add it to your mate.com account and so on off the back of that. So it's all integrated into there. So the second it finds out a meeting time, it can check availability or just straight up book it into somebody's calendar, just formatting that data. The other beauty of having AI as part of this process is if it spits out in the wrong way, if it says, oh, he's free on Tuesday at 4 p.m, you can then have AI have that added in with today's date so that it knows that Tuesday is the 29th or whatever it will be on there, and just kind of put all of that information together and spit it out in the format that you need for mate.com or Google or however you need that data put together. So the last bit on here is the files. So this is where you can upload any information about your company, and then squads if you just want to add anyone else into it, and then provider keys. I won't show you all of our keys for everything, but that's kind of an overview of all of those processes. So you can have a look at all those calls as you go through. You can play around with the different ones. You can talk to the assistant, and then when you're ready to go, just publish it. I would recommend playing around with it, testing it, and kind of prompting it accordingly on there, and kind of seeing if there's any changes that you want to make as part of the process. Before we move on to, we are doing SMS bots next. Is there any questions about that before we move on? Just have a look and see if anyone's put any in the chat. Sorry, it's pinging faster than I can move. Is the software charged for use? Yeah, so it uses, it's got a couple of costs. The AI costs, so actually using ChatGPT, DeepSeek, whichever model you want to use, it charges you for that bit, and then any of the other kind of tools that you want to be part of in there. It's not expensive. It's not particularly expensive on there, so I wouldn't necessarily worry about it. It'll be way cheaper than hiring a team member to sit there and answer the phone for you. So yeah, this is a voice agent, VAPI. We use VAPI as the voice agent part of it. Most of the automation process we still build within mate.com. It integrates quite nicely into there as well. Awesome. Anyone able to get on the call with the program is using? So yeah, it's Vappy. I can put the link in the chat for everyone. Awesome. Okay, any last questions before we move on? Is there something similar to DM like instead of voice agents? Yeah, so we will do DMs next. I'm going to use SMS to start with, but you can do it as part of Instagram. You can do it with all of these different tools as part of that process. What are we using these agents for? So we have it as our receptionist. So if you phone up our office, it will basically go through and you can speak to one of these. So it just takes a note. Anything that they're after inquiring about is trained on the company. So it's able to kind of basically run through any information, how we work, how you book a meeting with us, and all of that kind of stuff, so that they've got access to all of that information. What are you doing for this? Yeah, so a couple of other examples. We've used this for car showrooms and stuff like that for inquiries when they're out and about and there's nobody in the showroom. So AI answers the phone and says, "Oh, sorry, there's nobody here at the minute. Can I take a note? Which car are you interested in?" And all of that kind of stuff. We've also built that one to do outbound calls. So if somebody inquires about a red Toyota and only wants a red Toyota, if one of those comes into stock, it will look through the list and then that will trigger an automation to phone that individual to say, "Are you still interested in this red Toyota? We've now got one in stock. Do you want to pop in and see it?" And then it can book a slot with the salesman. So it does it that way around as well. So there's loads and loads of stuff you can do. It also does a service department, so notifying people that there's people booking in for services and so on off the back of it. So this is a huge tech opportunity. You're right. I promise you, in the next couple of years, every single business that you phone up will have tools like this. If you look at banks, are particularly bad for this in the minute. If you press up, it's beep 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 and go through. Press 1 to speak to so and so. Prove your identity and all of this. You'll be able to get a lot of these answers out with just chatting with a really good like AI agent, like I've shown you how to build here. The toolkit that we're using, I'm going to just share my screen again so you can see. So it's Vappy, spelled like this, VAPI, and then the other one is make.com, which is a no-code tool. There is also Zapier, which is another good one. Zapier is a bit more expensive. However, it's kind of the leader of it. Make.com is the cheaper alternative, and I prefer their error handlers in comparison. So it's a bit nicer to work with as a newbie. I'd recommend starting with there. There is also NA10, which has been causing quite a lot of stir because you can actually run NA10 on your own computer. So you don't need any cloud server. It's much cheaper because you can do it in that way. It was also the first one to come out with agents. So I don't know how much you lot have heard about agents, but it's every other thing on all of my social media at the minute is agents, and how it's going to completely transform what we do as business owners. We will get to the point where you are just managing teams of agents, or you'll have people managing agents, because they are getting that damn good that they will be able to do loads of different jobs for you. So if you think about this element, Vappy just as replacing a receptionist or working alongside a receptionist, imagine how much time that frees up. And if you can have an agent go away and look at different parts of the business and do all of this for you, that's extremely beneficial as well. Okay, any final questions? I'll be using Vappy for SMS. No, so we're going to use Go High Level for SMS. There's loads of other tools out there. I love Go High Level. It's a great little tool. How long did it take you to master Vappy? So I've run you through the foundations there. I would be shocked if from that alone you wouldn't be able to go and put together a voice agent on there. The main thing to focus on is what you train it on. So this prompt is very important. To be honest with you, Vappy is really good and gives you 99% of it anyway, but it's about the files that you upload. It will only ever be as good as the information you give it. Treat it as a new employee. What would it need to know if it had no idea who you are, what your business is, anything like that? It's completely oblivious to all of that. So yeah, just keep that in mind when you go through and build one. Yeah, so I do have a YouTube channel. My main form is TikTok, so I'll pop a link to the TikTok at some point as well for you. Can you give me the copy to your prompt? Yeah, I can copy paste this one. Vappy comes up with one each time for you anyway. So if you wanted a prompt, you can basically come in and ask for it anyway. It's just the generic one off there, but you might as well have it. Also, let me pop that in there for you. Oh, it's too long to send. Oh, no, sorry, I can't send you it. But when you go onto Vappy, it will create you a new one every time anyway. Okay, awesome. If that's all good for now. Oh, one last question. Does Vappy give you multiple voices for agents? So I would pick one voice per agent. So you can choose different voices. So if you wanted a receptionist to take that initial call and then hand it off to another AI agent that deals exclusively with, I don't know, complaints or exclusively with new meetings or whatever it is, you can build that out and can have different voices. They can sound like they're in the same office. There's so much you can do within it. It's really quite powerful. Okay, so we will now move on to the wonderful SMS. So we've built most of this inside mate.com, and then we're using Go High Level to actually send these out. So here, there's basically Keep is their CRM. So their website's linked to it, their funnels are linked to it. So we're watching Keep or whichever CRM you want as it gets added into there. We're basically finding the information about the individual, applying relevant tags, and then adding it to Go High Level. And then with it being added to Go High Level, it will trigger the rest of it. We'll move over to Go High Level in 1 second. I'll just show you this next part. So same goes for this. We're then looking for whether or not people reply, and then it comes to here for AI to generate a response, which then gets added back into Go High Level, and then we've got AI basically summarizing what's been said and updating Keep. So they can come into their CRM at any point, whether it's 5 minutes before their sales call or whatever it is, and come in here and have a look at this. I'll just pull up Go High Level. So you are looking for basically triggers. So there's 3 different options. This is for a gym. So they have 3 different basically lead magnets. So they've got a testosterone and a menopause guide. So if they download that, it can then ask them whether or not they want to have a call with the team. And then whether or not somebody's just applied straight up for a callback. So obviously you're going to want the AI to be prompted slightly differently off the back of that. And once it goes through here, the SMS gets given the information from ChatGPT. So if we go back onto here, this is where it's able to generate a reply. It's building all of that information within here. When it's ready to load, there you go. So it's got all of the information. It's got a really strong prompt about what it is that they're going to be interested in, what angle it's coming from. Because obviously, if it's a menopause guide, you want to be talking about different things compared to a testosterone guide. So those texts get sent off. You then have a slight delay. So this is waiting for 2 days to see whether or not these people reply. If they have replied, it will just take them out of it. If they haven't replied, it will continue following up, and then we'll have another delay, and it will basically keep chasing them. So this is a lead nurturing sequence that will sit there and run all day, every day. And then this is the second part of it. So this is when people actually reply. It's able to basically take their response, go through here, and then we go back onto here to actually update the CRM with what's been said, and then it will throw it through AI again to actually write the response. And then once again, it will send it off, it will throw them back into this funnel, and then it will go again. and it will go again and again and again for as long as it needs, and it's really, really quick with its responses. Once it gets to a certain point, it's the same as we've kind of like laid out on in VAPI here. If it gets to the certain point with the condition here, it will send them over a Calendly link so that they can book a call, and it will basically just nudge them along the way as they go. Yeah, so I appreciate that's a very, very high level. I'm just aware how much time we've got left, and I want to make sure that we're able to collectively build an automation tonight. So this is a very, very simple automation that you can either sell. We sell lots of these. There's loads of people who are wanting to post on LinkedIn and never remember, and it's a complete pain to deal with. So I'm going to show you this. If you want to sell it, if you want to use it for your own business, then by all means, feel free to do so. So I will just open a new one of these. Well, in fact, we'll just look at this. So it's a very simple automation. So we just need a Google Sheet to start with. I'm going to go for search rows. So all that's going to do is basically go through and search through the sheets every time and look for different kinds of leads. So I've put together a live demo sheet here. You've just got to choose your sheet. This is how complicated Mate.com is. You literally have got to go through and find out whether there's something there or not. I'm just going for whether or not it actually exists, and then from there, let me just click save again. We'll just do a limit as 1 for now. Awesome. Okay, so once it's had a look in the sheet to see whether or not there is any lead any posting ideas, it will go away and do that.
Hey, can you all hear me? Testing,
Yes,
1,
we
2,
can
3.
hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, 9 out of 10.
Hey, it's all right. Talk to you all soon. I hope to see some of you on Tuesday. That's the shadowing, Tuesday.
Awesome. Okay. So where did we get to? We've got, okay, so the Google Sheet, we've got that added in. This is basically where we're going to put in what we want the post to be about. The next part is Perplexity. So for those of you who haven't played around with Perplexity, it's a really cool tool that's able to basically go through and do Google research on the different topics. So all you want to do is link up the topic idea. You get to choose what the different role is. So you might want to put in here, please research this, and then it will pull the topic through. From there, you can then have ChatGPT turn this into a basically turn this into a LinkedIn post, whatever it is, off the back of that. Let's see if we can. It doesn't really matter which one you pick on here. It's the same as a VAPI. There's going to be different price points and so on as part of that. So then once again, there's different ones on here: user, assistant, and system. So use assistant basically is you telling it what it does. So whether or not it's a LinkedIn posting tool, and then the user's kind of what you want it to actually do. And then just move over the output from here. So this is going to be you want the finished message from there. So I'm just going to steal the prompt out of this one, just so that I don't have to write it all back out again. This should be short enough to copy and paste into chat. If not, take a quick screenshot of that there. So we've got the assistant first. Assistant, just take this out, pop that in there, and we want to add another one, add message, and then we want user, and then we'll just take this. So this is just basically saying that you want what you want to use, the topic and the output of the previous one. I think I still need to link that back up. Yeah. So it's about the topic. So we want the topic idea. It's saying got that completion, and then we can remove that. So next we have, let me just double check. Yeah, it's just straight after that is post on LinkedIn. So all you've got to do is find your LinkedIn module, create an organizational text post. If you want images in, you can add that in as well. But for the time being, we'll just do a post. You can choose the company. So I'm going to do Automation X. And then you just want the output straight from ChatGPT. So I'm just going to go for the result, which is all you need. And then that will post it for you as well. And then to finish off, we're going to get the Google Sheet and do delete a row. So all this is going to do is delete the initial row on here. So it takes that information and posts it automatically for you. Find the right folder. And then the row number is always going to be row number 2 because it's always going to delete the second row. The first row has got the heading in, as you can see here. So topic idea. Does anyone want to give me a topic idea that I can just demo that really quickly for? Anything you want AI to do some research on and then create a post off the back of. The other thing that's worth doing on here is adding a filter. So this is just purely, so it's searching in the row, it's looking to see how many of these are available. So as long as when I pick a topic idea in a minute, I'll put that in there. If there's no topic, it won't run. So it won't just basically go and put a blank thing in there. So you just add a little filter in here, which is total number of bundles is greater than, so you want the number greater than 0. That simple. And there you go. That is a whole automation built. And how long did that take us? 5 minutes? Something like that. Now let me grab an idea off you guys and then we will give it a run. Best niche for CTO. Interesting. Restaurant marketing. Restaurant offer creation. Is Zapier and Go High Level the same, or is one better than the other? I'll answer that in a minute. We'll go for best niche for fractional CTO. And let's see what it does as a post. I'm going to put that in the sheet. I'm going to add that in there. I'm going to press run on here. Fingers crossed this works first time. That'll be a miracle. So it's going to look at the sheet and there it didn't. Let's see what I've done wrong on it. So the reason that I really like Mate.com is because it gives you these lovely error handlers and you can go and see what the issue is on here. I think it's just because I'm logged into the right account. Let's pick a different model and see if that helps. Users fine. Max tokens, I didn't put max tokens in. Temperature's fine. There's loads of advanced options on here, but they're all kind of basically optional. I'm just going to run this to test it on its own. Right, authentication error. Let me just reconnect it. I need net banking. Okay. Let's just try one different model before we go. If not, I will just quickly drop the API key. No, right. Sorry, bear with me 1 second. So when you're putting these together, some of them need different things. So let me just show you Mate.com again. So when you're logging into things like Google, you can just go to add and it will ask you to log in. Other ones need an API key, which isn't particularly hidden. It's just something that you need to get out of your different accounts. It will be hidden within the settings bit, and then there's the API key on there. That might be the problem. So let me grab this API key. So all you've got to do is copy and paste the API key in there. Oh, we're having problems with the whole account. So there might actually be something down with complexity. Yeah, okay, that's going to not play ball. But once you get that sorted, so it looks, by the looks of it, the complexity is down. But once that goes, it will basically run through, pick the topic, do some research, and from there, ChatGPT will pull that together and turn that into a LinkedIn post, which will then get posted automatically on your LinkedIn page, and it will just basically spit out the results off the back of that. So in the meantime, while we haven't got that playing ball, I'll show you what the process looks like manually. So if we wanted to go onto here, we can do please research. Research. What was my topic? Fractional CTOs. Best needs for fractional CTOs. There we go. So it will go away and do all of this research for you. So it will pull from 7+ sources, so 10 sources in total, and come up with this information for you. It's a really powerful way to make sure that you are up to date with the best news and so on off the back of that. From there, it would then normally just move over, but it's not playing ball at the minute. So I'm just going to copy and paste this. And then you can use the wonderful ChatGPT to actually turn that into a post. So if you just click on here and just run that module only, it will then go away and run. ChatGPT is working as always. It will go do that research, and then it will put together basically a post about fractional CTOs, which industry is best, manufacturing, e-com, cybersecurity, and everything. And then you can literally just have that post on your LinkedIn just like that. And then all it's going to do is basically take that result. So you see that result there, it's going to be moved over to here. So all of that text gets sent over straight away. And then this will just delete that first row. If I run this on its own, it will have lost that row on here. So you see row 2 is gone. It will basically just keep doing that. So you've got an endless list that gets shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter until it runs out. You can build automation to auto populate that at the end of it. But yeah, sorry I can't get Perplexity to work. It doesn't. Let's just try it once more. No, not happy. Okay, well, that is pretty much everything I wanted to run through on there. We've gone a little bit over, but I hope everyone's still awake. Is there any questions to go through? So there was one about Go High Level and Zapier. So Zapier is a automation tool. Go High Level is a CRM at the end of the day. It's also just got some really cool additional bits on. So as you saw on there, I'm able to build automations within it. Put it back up. So we've got automations that are built within there. You then also have like the normal traditional conversations tab, so you can see clients that are going in and out of there. You've got a list of contacts. You've got opportunities and what stages people are at. So the normal pipeline kind of form. It's a really, really powerful tool that's just got some of those extra added bonuses on there as well. So just give a high overview of the automation. Yeah, sure, no problem. So what is this? So you've got Google Sheets. This is just somewhere to store your ideas. So whatever it is that you want to post about on LinkedIn. Perplexity to do the research, ChatGPT to actually turn that into a nice article, and then obviously LinkedIn to post it, and then you're just deleting the idea out. If you didn't delete the idea out, it would do the same one every single day forevermore. The other thing to note on here is that you can choose when it runs. So you can set it to run once a day, pick a time, and so on from there. So you can just choose how often it wants to post. If you want it to post every 15 minutes, you can do it. If you want it to post every 5 minutes, you can do it. It's entirely up to you. I probably wouldn't recommend doing it every 5 minutes. You might drive people up the wall, but you know, there we go. Okay, next question. What's the social media automation software called? So yeah, this is make.com. How much do you charge for these content systems? So the beauty of AI and automation agencies is you can charge massive varieties of pricings for these kind of things, because if you're doing this for one individual, it will take you as long to build that out as it will for a team of 15. So you can have it post on an individual's LinkedIn. So if you wanted your whole entire company posting on LinkedIn every day about thought leadership and the new things, then obviously that is way more valuable to them. So you can price it accordingly. We start them off at about £1,000. If they want it built on our system and we run it, it's normally 50 quid a month to have it running as well. So it's a nice little container that's ticking over in the background as well. But yeah, there's varying levels of it depending on who it is that you're kind of selling that to. Jack said, I found your TikTok. Do you do teaching? Yeah, so I have got a mentorship that I do one-to-one. Very different to this. It's all one-to-one with me to help people start their automation agencies. And yes, that is the link on there if you wanted to meet with me. How would you make a sense check to make sure that none of the materials are hallucinating in the AI model outputs? So there's a bit of that that needs to be taken into consideration. So it's a lot to do with the prompting, and the perplexity element is designed to actually go through and make sure that all of that is laid out in the right way. It goes and searches Google, and all it's doing is kind of condensing that information on there as well. So yeah, that's a really good way to do it. So I will pop my TikTok in the chat for you all, so you can have a look at and see what other mischief I'm getting up to. Good idea to offer for them to run it on your account for a small retainer. Is the best place to find you online. Not finding anything with my name. Okay, I'll pop to the my TikTok in the chat for everyone. But yeah, there is lots of different ways you can basically sell these automations, which is another really nice place to be. You can charge a one-time fee to build them, build it on their system, leave it to it, and it will just run forevermore. You can also charge a smaller setup fee and then charge a monthly retainer every month. So they're basically paying you for it as a SaaS. The other beauty of it is that automation that we built in about 5 minutes there. It took me 5 minutes because I've built plenty of them. You can essentially take this, copy it and paste it, and all you've got to do on there is change the prompting and which LinkedIn account it's linked to. So that automation now built, I can sell it as many times as I want, and it's basically a mini little SaaS product that you can sell to anyone on there. Yeah, and then there's other models of charging just a retainer, no setup fee. There's loads of different ways you can do it, and the beauty of it is you can kind of infinitely scale it on there. Are there any industries that are adapting the technology more than others? Now that is a very good question. Pretty much every industry is looking at this. We've done a lot of work with recruitment agencies at the moment. They're a market that is very keen to streamline their processes, and AI can help with making sure that there's no bias when they're hiring people and stuff like that. So that's been a really key point on there. If you just build a chatbot for somebody's website, what would you charge monthly? It depends. Chatbots is kind of like how complicated you want it to be. A simple chatbot you can build with a system that already exists and plug it into a company, and it's really cheap and easy to do. However, there's some really more complicated ones where when it gets handed over to a human for the questions it can't answer, it then gets trained on that information so that every single time there's a new question that the AI can't answer, it gets trained on that. So it is forever learning until it gets to the point where you no longer need a human there to answer any of the questions, because all of the inquiries that have been done with AI have been done and done and done and done, and it's been trained on and trained on until the point where it has to be a really, really bizarre question for AI to not know the answer, because it's done enough reps, and once that's been answered once, it will know and it will forever be able to answer these questions. So to not answer your question at all, it depends. A simple one, we charge like 500 quid to set up and then 100 quid a month. More of the complicated ones then vary the scale. We've quoted £6,000 for ones before, but it really just depends on what they're after. They wanted it to enrich job boards and stuff like that as part of the process as well. Do you run it and upkeep or hand it off to the client? So it's a bit of both. We do lots of different things depending on the client. We do offer a kind of like almost retainer model, where we're offering some kind of basic insurance to make sure that it's running. Part of that, when ChatGPT brings out a new model, or whoever it is brings out a new model, then you can just turn around and say like, oh, yeah, we've updated it for you. It's on the latest model. Let's see if there's any difference on there. What is our main lead gen channel for the company at the moment? So we have actually built out all of our own automated systems. which is cheating a little bit as an automation agency if you're not automating your lead generation. So we're using a mix of automated personalized emails, so researching a company, building proposals, and basically emailing that over to people individually on mass. So we can do 1,000 custom-made proposals that we email to people every single day, offering different services. We've never gone down the ads route, and we've literally always stuck with email, LinkedIn, like the automation that I've shown you today. Putting content out there gets people to come to us. We are kind of seen as one of the thought leaders in the space because we're using AI to do all of the homework every day. Okay, I believe that's all of the questions. Any last ones? How often do you use Zapier compared to Mate.com? So I learned everything that I did on Mate.com before it was even called Mate.com. So that's kind of my bread and butter. However, there are other elements of it as well that are worth considering. Like Zapier is great. We have staff who build everything on Zapier and prefer that as a platform. So it really just depends what you want to use as a toolkit. They're both do the same job at the end of the day. Awesome. Okay. Any final questions? You're very welcome, Victor. How would you go about learning or setting up automations? Also, what are some tips to set up automations to differentiate yourself from competitors? It's interesting you say that. We've just built out an automation that looks at competitors' websites, posts, stuff that they're kind of doing out there, and having a look at what it does better than you. So you can basically have a competitor analysis done daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, however often you want it done, and it can look at what it's doing well and what you're not, and then you can kind of address those points as you see fit as part of the process, which is really quite cool. We brought that out for a client, and we've been using that since. With how's best to go about learning automation. So having somebody who knows what they're doing is quite helpful to call upon. If you haven't got access to someone like me, then I would have a look at YouTube. There's loads of stuff on there, but the best thing you can do is actually just get stuck into these tools, because you will be absolutely amazed by what is on TikTok or and YouTube and places like that already, so that you can have a look. Yeah, that's pretty much all. Thanks for clearing up the difference between Go High Level and Zapier. Not a problem at all. I do share some of the blueprints. So the blueprints that I showed you there, you can download. There's a couple of them on my TikTok. I don't share loads of them. We kind of keep that for our mentees so that they've got access to all of these automations that we sell on a day-to-day basis. Any more questions? Awesome. You're very welcome. Hey, any final questions? How long is the mentorship program? So it's 1-to-1. The aim's to kind of get you set up and going as soon as possible, and kind of get you to the 10K a month, whatever the goal is. And it's however long that takes you. Most people it's a couple of months, but it depends what it is that who you want to target, what it is you want to do, how quickly you want to get there. It's all kind of part down to that. Awesome. What niche did you would recommend starting off with AI automation? Oh, good question. The market's so broad. I would seriously have a look at who it is that you want to target and work with. If you've got any friends, family, colleagues, anybody like that you're able to get in front of, that's a really good place to start, because you can really make the most of that. But it's up to you. Every market needs it. A couple of things is like making sure they've got the money to spend on this. They're doing lots of admin tasks like, well, saying that, I was going to say things like construction don't really need AI. We've sold lots of automations to construction companies because there's loads of stuff that goes on in the back office that you don't think of. But yeah, the market's massive. There's going to be so much room to make money in this market at the moment. And off the back of that, yeah, the sky's the limit, really. Just use whatever benefit you've got, whether it's a job that you're working at the moment, whether it's something a family friend does that you can start off with. If you can get that first client and it's somebody nice and easy that you already know, then it just buys you that bit of room to kind of, if there's anything that goes wrong or so on, and then you've got a proof of concept that then you can sell again and again and again. How did Tai even find me? So it was through TikTok. What niche do you recommend starting with? Yeah, so just pick any that you know on there. How old am I? I am 24. Is it too late to start an AI automation agency? No, absolutely not. I think there's going to be a shift to agents in the very near future. But these agents are going to need automations that they can interact with to do these jobs anyway. And even if you just go in and build agents for these companies, it's going to be an extremely powerful value add to companies. And we will get to the point where you'll have individuals managing 10, 15, 20 agents that are able to go away and do these jobs. So yeah, that's one of the best things. In my opinion, I am very biased. It's one of the best markets to get into at the minute because there's so much money being thrown at it, and there's only going to be more. I honestly think within the next 3 to 5 years, every business will have AI in it at some level, whether you like it or not. It's being forced onto your iPhone, so it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere.
Daniel, can't thank you enough for your time today. I think everyone got a ton of value from the session. Thanks everyone for tuning in for this Thursday. Have a good rest of your week, and we'll see you next week, okay?
Sounds good. Awesome. Thank you, everyone.